We live in a world that praises authenticity, at least on the surface. We're told to be ourselves, to speak our truth, to live boldly, but the moment we do, something happens. The smiles fade, the support vanishes. We are labeled difficult, intense, selfish, weird, or worse, we are ignored. Why? Why does society punish the very thing it claims to value? Carl Jung had an answer, and it wasn't simple, because the truth rarely is. Jung believed that the conflict between the true self and the social self was one of the greatest spiritual and psychological battles we face. And most people don't even know it's happening. From the moment we enter the world, we are taught directly and indirectly how to survive. We learn to read faces, to measure reactions, to shrink or expand ourselves based on what gets rewarded. This is the beginning of the persona, a term Jung used to describe the mask we wear to navigate society. The persona isn't inherently bad. It's necessary. It helps us function. It allows us to play roles: teacher, friend, parent, partner. But here's the danger. We start to believe we are the mask. We forget that underneath the persona lives something much more real, the self. And when the self begins to whisper, when your soul starts knocking on the walls of your life, the world doesn't always welcome it, because your authenticity reminds others of everything they've buried, and that can feel threatening. Have you ever spoken your truth and immediately regretted it? Not because it was wrong, but because of how people responded. Jung would say this isn't in your imagination. Authenticity can feel dangerous because it threatens the unconscious structures that society is built upon. Society depends on order, roles, predictability. Your wildness, your honesty, your depth, it disrupts that illusion of safety. And here's the paradox. You want to be free, but you also want to be loved. And so, you begin to hide. Little by little, you trade pieces of your soul for approval. You tell yourself it's okay. You're just keeping the peace. You're being reasonable. But inside, a slow erosion begins, and the price of being liked is that you slowly disappear. Jung didn't only explore the individual shadow, he also believed in the collective shadow. This is the dark undercurrent beneath our culture. It includes everything society refuses to admit it fears: vulnerability, failure, non-conformity, depth. When you live authentically, you are confronting the collective shadow. You are refusing to perform. You are becoming a mirror to those who are still trapped in who they think they should be. And many people don't want that mirror, so they punish you, not always with words, but with silence, with distance, with dismissal. You are too much, too quiet, too emotional, too intense, too soft. But what they're really saying is, you make me uncomfortable, because you remind me of who I once was before I gave up on myself. There's a moment in every life when you stop lying to yourself. Sometimes it comes with heartbreak. Sometimes with a quiet collapse. Sometimes in the stillness of a morning, when you no longer recognize the life you've built. Jung said that truth is not a concept. It is a force. And when it moves through you, it will destroy everything that isn't real. Truth-telling is a sacred act, but it comes with consequences. People may leave. Careers may shift, relationships might falter. You may be misunderstood, judged, or quietly cast aside. And here lies the paradox. When you finally become real, you will lose everything that depended on your false self. This is not punishment, it is purification. But the pain is real, and this is why most people stay asleep. Because to awaken is to grieve. From the earliest days of schooling, you are taught to follow rules, to raise your hand before speaking, to sit still, to memorize and repeat, rather than wander and question. You are rewarded for compliance, not creativity, for fitting in, not standing out. This is not a conspiracy, it's an unconscious system designed to maintain control, but at what cost? Jung believed that every human being comes into this world with a unique blueprint, a psychic fingerprint. When you are taught to suppress this inner essence, you don't just lose your uniqueness, you lose your vitality. You begin to live a second-hand life, a life built on what others expected of you, And then one day, you forget that anything else was ever possible. Individuation is one of Jung's most powerful ideas. It is the process of becoming your whole self, not the self your parents wanted, not the self society demanded, but the totality of who you truly are, including the shadow, the wounds, the gold. To individuate is to say, I will no longer betray myself for comfort, for approval, or for peace. It is a quiet rebellion, not with violence, but with presence. To individuate is to stop performing, to risk being misunderstood, to follow the voice within. Even when the world around you doesn't understand, it is not easy. It is often lonely, but it is the only path to true inner freedom. Jung wrote, loneliness does not come from being alone, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you. When you begin the journey of authenticity, you will feel alone, not because something is wrong, but because something is finally right. You are no longer numbing, no longer pretending, no longer playing the game, and that will separate you from many people. But hear this, loneliness is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of becoming. It is a sacred threshold, and on the other side of it lives real connection, real meaning, real peace. We've been taught our whole lives to be good, to be polite, to be agreeable, to not rock the boat. But what if this idea of being good is actually what's keeping you trapped? Jung warned us, morality can be a disguise, a mask worn by the ego to avoid seeing the truth. Sometimes being good is just code for don't upset others, don't question the rules, don't step out of line. But at what cost? Authenticity is not about being good, it's about being whole. It's about owning your darkness and your light, your strength and your vulnerability, your desire to love and your need for boundaries. To be whole, you must stop trying to be what others approve of, and begin the sacred task of becoming what is real. When Jung spoke of the shadow, he didn't mean evil. He meant everything you have disowned, your anger, your sexuality, your creativity, your ambition, your sadness, even your joy. The shadow contains not just wounds, but power. It holds the raw energy you need to become fully alive. But society teaches you to suppress it. Don't be too much. Don't get angry. Don't express desire. Don't want too loudly. So you bury it, and then you become passive, flat, confused, afraid. To reclaim your shadow is to stop pretending you are only your nice side. It is to say, I am a full human being capable of destruction and creation, rage and tenderness, darkness and light. And from that inner marriage you are reborn. One of Jung's most piercing insights is that the real control we suffer under doesn't come from the outside, it comes from within. At some point in your life, you internalize the rules. Now, even when no one is watching, you punish yourself, you silence your voice, you doubt your instincts, you suppress your excitement, you feel guilty for resting, you mistrust your desires. You have become your own jailer. Jung called this the tyranny of the ego, a false self, built to protect you, that now controls you. To awaken is to see this mechanism for what it is, an outdated survival strategy, one that may have kept you safe once, but now keeps you small. So how do you return? Jung never offered easy answers, but he did offer a direction. Go within, not once, but over and over. Let go of the life built to please others, and listen deeply to what your soul longs for. The path to authenticity is the path of individuation, the lifelong process of integrating all parts of yourself. This path does not promise comfort, it promises truth, and truth will change you. It will strip you bare, it will burn what is false, but what remains will be real, and in that realness lives a quiet, radiant freedom that no one can take from you. Carl Jung believed that archetypes, universal primal patterns of the psyche, live within all of us. These archetypes shape the way we experience the world, ourselves and others. And on the journey to authenticity, a few become especially powerful. The rebel, the part of you that dares to question, the seeker, the part that hungers for something real, the hermit, the part that longs for silence and solitude, the warrior, the part that will protect your soul's truth, even if it costs you everything, the lover, the part that wants to belong, but not at the cost of your essence, the fool, the part willing to start over, to risk looking foolish in the name of transformation. The authentic life is not about becoming a single version of yourself. It's about integrating all of these inner figures, so that you live not from the ego, but from the self. The self is the totality of who you are, not just the good, not just the bad, but the whole dynamic, mysterious being underneath it all. Why do so few people ever become truly authentic? Jung knew, because the false self is safe. We build our lives like armor, our careers, our reputations, even our friendships. They all reinforce who we think we are, and to question that identity feels like death. It's not logic that keeps people stuck. It's fear. Fear of rejection, fear of isolation, fear of the unknown, fear of not being loved if we stop performing. And so we numb ourselves. We scroll, we drink, we overwork, we stay busy, we stay distracted, because to stop, to really stop, might mean hearing the whisper of the soul, and that whisper would ruin everything that is false. One of the greatest costs of authenticity is rejection. People who loved your mask won't always love your face. The more you speak your truth, the more you'll notice some people pulling away, not because you're wrong, but because your courage confronts their comfort. You become a mirror, and many cannot bear to see what they've hidden from themselves. But here's the paradox. Rejection is a form of refinement. It removes those who were aligned with your performance, and creates space for those aligned with your truth. Jung believed that real belonging can only come from the self, not the mask. So let them go, mourn what you must, and trust that authenticity will never leave you empty. It only leaves you clean. Solitude is not loneliness. It is sacred. It is the ground where the self can speak. Jung often sought out nature, because in the stillness of trees and rivers, he could hear the psyche more clearly. In solitude, you remember what's yours. You begin to distinguish between the noise of the world and the voice of your own knowing. Yes, there is fear at first. Yes, the silence can feel endless, but stay long enough, and you will begin to feel it. A steady warmth deep within that says, I was always here, beneath all the masks, beneath all the stories. I never left you. Solitude then becomes a return, not to something new, but to something ancient inside you that was waiting to be heard. Living from the self. ****. Carl Jung once wrote, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But what does it actually mean to live from the self? It means no longer outsourcing your worth, no longer betraying your instincts just to belong, no longer silencing your truth for the comfort of others. It means allowing your full inner world to come alive, not just the pleasant, polite, or impressive parts, but all of it, the grief, the rage, the joy, the longing, the confusion, the clarity. The self is not an idea, it's an experience. It moves from the body, it speaks through intuition, it breaks the mold, it follows no map but its own. To live from the self is to say yes to your inner truth, even when it's inconvenient, unpopular, or misunderstood. Authenticity isn't a moment, it's a practice. It's in the tiny choices you make every day, saying no when you mean no, resting when you're exhausted, even if others keep pushing, speaking your truth with kindness, even when your voice shakes, letting go of roles that suffocate your soul, asking yourself, what do I need, before pleasing others. These are acts of courage, and they're also acts of integration, because each time you choose authenticity, you bring more of your shadow into the light. You stop abandoning yourself, and instead you begin to parent yourself, to protect your truth like it matters, to honor your depth like it's sacred. And with time, this becomes your new normal. In a world addicted to performance, there is something deeply disarming about someone who is simply real. No performance, no persona, just presence. It doesn't shout, it doesn't demand, it simply is. This is the person who doesn't need to impress you, who isn't afraid of being misunderstood, who doesn't flinch in the presence of discomfort, because they are rooted in something deeper than approval. They are rooted in their own soul. This is the power of authenticity, not loud, but steady, not dominating, but magnetic, not grasping, but deeply anchored. And in a society that punishes authenticity, this kind of quiet power is revolutionary. To awaken is not to escape the world, it is to walk through it, eyes open, soul intact. Yes, the world will still demand conformity. Yes, people will still misunderstand you. Yes, you may still feel alone at times, but you are no longer asleep. You no longer trade your authenticity for acceptance. You no longer contort yourself just to be liked. You live in alignment with yourself. You speak when it matters. You rest when it's time. You create from your center. You connect from your heart. You let go with grace. You hold boundaries without guilt. And you love fully, wildly, freely, because you are no longer afraid of who you are. This is the hidden truth Jung left behind. The world may punish authenticity, but your soul will always reward it. And in the end, that is the only reward that matters. Thank you for walking this long path with me. This wasn't just a video, it was a journey back to yourself. Carl Jung gave us a language for what the soul already knows. You were never meant to be a copy. You were meant to be whole. Now the question is not, will others accept me? The question is, will I accept the truth of who I am, even if no one else does? Because that is how we become free, forever.